Well, I can appreciate going first because if not, knowing myself, I'd probably be tinkering with my slides all day. So I'm glad that I'm going first and can get it over with and can listen to everybody else's talk today. All right, sweet. So yeah, as everyone saw on the schedule, talking about React and authentication today. Tan already gave me a great intro. Thanks for that. But yeah, I work at Okta, specifically Auth0, which is a product unit. It was acquired about 1.5 years ago. So now we're all kind of part of Okta. I've got courses on egghead.io. If you are on that site, you can see me there. But I got a lot to talk about today, so I'm just going to jump right into it. How many people consider themselves to be self-taught? Cool. Actually, wow. Actually, it's like more than half, it looks like. So yeah, that's me too, actually. I don't have a degree in CS, and I didn't go to any kind of boot camp or anything, just kind of started learning courses online, JavaScript-y stuff. And there's obviously, as self-taught, there's some things that I that I always kind of struggled catching up on. Some of those things being like data structures and algorithms and OO type techniques and acronyms and that kind of stuff. Coming into a job, you always get asked that and you always feel a little behind. But another thing that I always felt behind on was identity stuff, like how to authenticate, the login page, all that kind of stuff. I've always felt behind on that. But obviously I work at Okta and Auth0 now, I've learned a lot. But there's so much more behind logging in and authenticating websites that it's more than just a username and password, right? The HTML, the CSS behind that. There's so much more that's going on behind the scenes. And so today I want to talk about kind of three main things, three main terminology, and then we're going to kind of connect it and have everything wrapped up together. So we're going to talk about authentication, authorization, and JSON Web Tokens, or JOTs. And then I'm going to using a TypeScript React Router 6 React app. We're going to actually connect that to Auth0 as an identity provider. We're going to break down the hooks that are involved with setting up a login, logout screen. I'm going to show you the tokens that are being used to transfer between the application. And then we're also going to be using it with an Express backend, because this is a JavaScript conference, right? So for those that don't know, Okta, Auth0, identity providers, I've been saying that term a couple times now. But an identity providers, very simply put, it helps developers and companies manage users' identities. It provides authentication as a service so that you don't need to worry about the deep stuff of algorithms and signing and making sure you don't get hacked and that kind of stuff. All right, so that first term that I've said now, authentication. So authentication, very simply as well, is just the process of verifying who's accessing your website. So, most companies, probably almost everybody, has to have some type of login, especially if you're using some type of money, e-commerce type thing. So whenever a user comes to your site, you need to figure out who they are, right? So you have that login page that comes up. You got emails, passwords, and all the jazz behind that. And this part right here, where a user's basically logging in, this here is the authentication process. And so that's enough for us to get into a code sample and look into a React app that's running. So everything that I'm going to be going over today, you can clone and download the code sample from developer.auth0.com. That's what I went to for this presentation today. So if you want to kind of play around with this yourself later on, you can go to this website, and I'm going to actually go to that and show you some other cool stuff on this site here. So on this site, underneath resources and code samples, if you're not a JavaScript developer, you're just at this conference because you want to be here. There's a whole bunch of languages here that you can do to get your own login page set up and running and working with authorization and authentication, that kind of stuff. So if you're not a JavaScript developer, you want to get into Java, Golang, C#, whatever you are, that's going to be on the left side. Again, this was underneath resources and then code samples. But for today, I do have a little React app that's running here. Let's see, right here. So this is a little React app running on localhost 4040, and this is actually cloned from walking through this choose your own stack button here. where I've gone through and clicked on React with TypeScript, React Router 6, and Express. So you can do the same thing whenever you get home or whatever language you're working with. So I've gone through just selecting the basic access control options, single page app, React with TypeScript. And then for a backend, you can see there's a whole bunch of different options here, depending on whatever language you want to work with as a backend. But for this example, I went with Express and TypeScript. And what's really cool here is that this page here is what I've cloned and downloaded for the example today. And you can go through the steps. Basically, what I'm going to be doing today is connecting this to Auth0 as identity provider, using Auth0 to create that login page for you, so you don't have to worry about the HTML, the CSS, the salting, hashing, all the jazz that goes behind storing passwords and emails and that kind of stuff. So again, that was developer.auth0.com if you're interested in setting this up and trying it out yourself. And then once you have that running, once you have an app, once you've cloned the React front end and the Express backend, you've got those NPM modules installed and it's running locally. This is again what it's going to look like from the React side of things. And then the second thing we need to do once we have a React app running is actually create an account with some type of identity provider. Obviously, I'm going to use Auth0 today, but this is going to look very similar if you're using Firebase Auth, or if you're using AWS's Cognito or Ping. There's a lot of different options out there. But I'm using Auth0 today in order to do the login page that you'll see here when I click on the login screen. And in order to get that, before we get into the code, you do need to create an account within Auth0. There is a free trial that you can use. Comes with a couple thousand users that you can sign up with and get for free. But once you go through the process of signing up, you're going to land on the dashboard that looks like here. So let's look at the code here for a second before I switch back over to my slides. You'll notice that I've got the Express TypeScript downloaded for the hello world here. I'm sure we're all at least can be familiar of what this looks like, but we have middleware messages. We have our routers that give us some endpoints right off the bat. We've got public, protected, and admin. And each one of these we'll walk through here later on in the talk, but pretty simple, basic setup, but this removes a lot of the work on your side in order to get an identity provider logged in and connected with your app. Sweet. So in order to connect an identity provider such as Auth0 with your React or Express app, we do need to get a couple values, some environment variables from your dashboard, and then copy that over to your .env file within your JavaScript app. And that's going to be done in two places here. We've got an Applications tab on the left and an APIs tab on the left as well. So I've already gone ahead. I didn't trust the internet here. It looks like it's working pretty well so far, but I already went ahead and created this stuff. But if you create an application on this page here, and then for the back end we create an API, this is what it'll look like. We'll switch back to the slides. Sweet. So in order to get the front end set up so that we get a login page already created for us, we go into Auth0, we create a new application. There's that button over, you can't see my mouse, but the blue button on the side there. We give it a name. We click on the single page web app option. And then we're going to need to grab a couple values from this new generated application from the Auth0 side of things. And that's just going to be that domain and client ID. So with that domain and client ID, we're going to paste that into our .env file, which I'll show you here in a second. And the last thing we need to do for the React side of things is add in the URL that we're going to be working with here. So we've got localhost 4040. So we're going to add that to 3 different places on the application. It's going to be in the allowed callback URL, the allowed logout, and the allowed web origin. So this basically enables Auth0 as the identity provider to know that this is where we're going to be doing the sign-in, the sign-ins, log-out, that kind of stuff. I don't know why I keep escaping. And then for the API, for it to work with Express, we'll need to create an API. and give it a name and then a unique identifier URL. So here I've just given in a helloworldexample.com URL. Sweet. And then once I've cloned the React app from that developer.auth0.com website. And then for the Express side of things, I cloned the Express thing. All we have to do is create the Auth0 account, create a couple applications, APIs inside of the dashboard. And then we're going to copy over some of those values that we got back into this .env file. This is for the React side of things, and then for the Express side of things. So these environment variables is how we get the SDK and the hooks that we'll have here set up, how we get them all to mesh and connect together. So let's go ahead and try it out. So I've already gone ahead and connected the application that I created with, let's see, right here. So this is the local host that's running locally. I've already copied over those values to the env file, and now when we press login, you'll notice that a couple things have happened here. First thing is that we've actually redirected away from the local host. So going back to being a self-taught dev and not understanding much at all, last year I gave a more in-depth talk about what's happening behind the scenes as far as authenticating and what happens when you log in and log out. But what's happening here is inside of the React application that I've cloned, you'll notice that you don't see this login page, the HTML, the CSS, the React side of things. You don't see this form inside of the React code anywhere. What's happening is you see this redirect here, and it's actually super common. Most of the websites that you probably see today are doing some type of redirect to a more secure URL for then your users to then log in and authenticate. So here we have kind of the default Auth0 login screen. And again, this wasn't created by myself. This is Auth0. It's hosting it on its own servers. And we're able to log in here, given a username and password or email and password that I've already set up, or you can sign up for a new one. But once we sign in, notice the URL kicks us back over to localhost 4040. It redirects us to /profile, this profile page. And you can see we've got some tokens that we've decoded here, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But the point that I'm trying to get across here is, regardless of if you're an experienced developer or you're new, authentication doesn't have to be a difficult thing to do. There are identity providers out there like Auth0, like P Incognito, lots of different options where you can utilize the login experience using some other provider versus you having, as a developer, having to code everything out line by line. But what's also cool about this is we're given hooks and SDKs that we can plug into our applications on the React side of things, and as well as on the backend Express side of things that we can utilize for initiating our own login. You can add specific permissions. So if you're an admin, on the back end or on the front end, and you want to show an admin only view, all this can be done super fast. I've already been talking for like 10 minutes, and we've already got a login screen going up. And sure, I already went ahead and added some stuff, but you can get a login identity solution plugged into your React app within 10 minutes just by utilizing a free plan and downloading a code sample. So let's kind of reverse engineer and go through the code of the React app, look at the hooks, look at how it's actually working, how that login button's working, how that ID token that we see with all the data on it, how all that's working. So if you're not going to use the code sample, you definitely don't have to. You can do it yourself in your own current React app if you've got one running. So all you need to do is install the SDK and then import the provider. So that's going to be an npm install of auth0/auth0-react. And then all the React providers, we're using context here so that when we get to the hooks, we can grab the values that are on that context. Then we're going to use that Auth0 provider higher level component there and wrap the children underneath it. And then the domain, the client ID that you see here, those are values, as well as the audience, those are values that are coming from the Auth0 dashboard that we created earlier. Now with that provider that's wrapped around the entire app, we can then use the use Auth0 hook. Now this is a custom hook that's provided by the SDK, and you can destructure a lot of really useful values right off the bat from this hook. So in this example, we have the is loading bool value here. So this is going to be a simple true or false that you can use to do like an if check and throw a spinner up if your user's still authenticating inside of your app. You can use this is loading as like an if check. But there's a couple other things that you can get from this Auth0 hook. There's is authenticated, which also is a Boolean value. There's an error, which is an error message if something happened with the login, logout process. User, which is actually the user ID, which was destructured and printed to the screen on the profile page. And we're going to talk about what this ID token is here in a minute. But that's essentially what this user object is. And then you have two really handy-dandy functions here. You have a login with redirect and a logout. So these are attached to the on-click handlers of the buttons in the top header. So this function initiates the kick over to the Auth0 servers, that login screen that you saw. That function, login with redirect, is all that has to happen here in order for that button to send you over to Auth0 or whatever identity provider you use, and then it kicks you back over to your app with some tokens that you can use on your front end. And then obviously the logout button is a function to get rid of the tokens in this session storage that you have going on. Now, a really common use case, let's say you have that admin page, you have a protected page that you only want users that are signed in to be able to access on your front end. You don't need to worry about running all the code that's put around checking to see if the cookies that are currently on the site are valid, that it hasn't been hacked or anything. You can simply use the with authentication required. This is another higher level component that's going to wrap over a private route of some kind. You can add a redirecting message that can show the user right before it kicks them over to log in. So before, this would be a lot of code, especially if you're doing it yourself, which you can. There's a lot of risk on your part to make sure it's safe, but there's a lot of code that goes into this, right? Making sure there's a token. Is there a refresh token? Is there any kind of cross scripting going on? But all of this is kind of taken away and handled by the SDK for you. Now, if you're a big concern is that redirect process whenever you log in. But what's nice is there's a no code and a full code option of customizing the login page that you see to look like your initial app. So if you remember, it was like kind of black and white and it had the Auth0 logo, but inside of the dashboard, you can go over and go to the universal login page. And it's really easy to change out the colors, the background, and like a no code option. But there's also the option to actually get into the code, and you can edit the HTML and CSS yourself directly. So it'll look like a seamless transition for your users as you go from the login and coming back, which again happens a lot. It's probably more often than you've noticed as you log into sites. You'll notice that the URL changes. Either it goes to a subdomain and comes back. All that's doing the same thing. But the users think that it's the same website, but it's actually redirecting you and coming back. And then also when you utilize something like Auth0 and Identity Provider, there's a lot of like just toggling options that you can do if you want to add in like texting codes and email codes and that kind of process of logging in. A lot of this can be done by just clicking on the option in the dashboard. Now, there is a talk later today about JOTs, and so I'm only going to give the 5-minute introduction to it, but if you want to get more into these tokens, this word that I've been saying this whole time, hopefully have some idea what it is. But whenever I say token or JOTs, a JOT is a JSON web token, and the way that I like to think about it is it's how your front end, your back end, and your server that's doing the authentication, how they all talk to each other. It's the language of what's going on. And that's done by these tokens, these JSON web tokens. And it looks like this. It's on the left side. You notice that there's like a red, purple, and blue option. But a JSON Web Token is base64 encoded. It looks like a bunch of just characters separated by 2 dots. The first red part is going to be the header section. The purple is kind of what we care about the most from a front-end developer side, is the payload, where it gives us information about the user that's logged in, their name and that stuff like that. And then the blue part is a signature. What's nice about tokens, and the talk later today, I'll probably go really deep into this and talk about the encoding and the algorithms used behind it. But what's nice about this is this language that's being passed around between the front end, the back end, and your server, whatever authorization server you're using, it can be read publicly. You can actually go to your browser on any website that you're logging into, check the network tab, and grab the tokens down there. And you can go to jwt.io, and you can decode them on this page. You can just drop them into here and see what's on your payload. So you can see what information is being passed around on your application today. So go to Facebook, go to whatever you want to do, and look in that network tab. You can grab the tokens. You can see what's being passed around between your front end, your back end, and the authorization server. And I'll show you on the local host React app here how you can do that and find that. Now that's being done. But again, I like the tokens is a big thing in this space. It's again how the language, how we talk to the front and the back end. And whenever you authenticate, you might hear about ID tokens and access tokens. An ID token, whenever you authenticate, you're going to get 2 tokens back, 2 JSON Web Tokens, 2 JOTs. One is an ID token, and it's going to have information about the user. We saw on the other page, name, email, their ID, how they authenticated. This ID token, again, just kind of you can use on your front end to display the email and the header. You know, whenever you log into websites, you have your little gravatar email and picture. That's all going to come from the ID token. That's then you can translate and de-encode that to show on your website. This is not used with APIs. This is just for your client-side apps. Again, we saw that on the profile page. You can see it says my nickname's Tyler, name's Tyler, my gravatar is the default, just TY with the pink image there. And then the second token that we get back once we authenticate is something called an access token. This token is actually used to obtain access to an API. So if we're able to authenticate on the front end, what about on the back end? What stops us from opening up Postman and making a fetch request to an endpoint that we've gathered and making an update outside of a client app? And that's where the access token comes in. This holds things like permissions and roles, like are they an admin, a super admin, that kind of stuff. And so how does this actually work in the code? Let me actually go to this part in the React app. Sweet. So again, we're using that this auth0 hook that's come from the SDK, and there's a handy dandy function here called get access token silently that you can get from the use auth0 hook. With that access token, we can then pass it to some type of function that then adds this token. You'll see here inside of this Axios request, we have a headers, and we've added this access token to the authorization header here. And we can actually see that if we go to our network tab. And again, you can do this on any website that you've logged in or authenticated with. But if we go to protected, you see that we have a message here that says something about what we're doing. But if you look on the request headers, you'll see that there's this authorization, and then there's a bearer, and then a big old long string here. But you can actually take this on the request and then drop it back into this jwt.io, and you can see what's on this access token. So you can see that in this payload, it's got a scope, which is kind of like permissions, my audience and stuff about my actual user ID. But this token is the access token. It can be sent to your backend. Man, I am running out of time. And the backend can then take that token, utilizing some other Auth0 packages, and it can authenticate that token and make sure that the user has access to view that page. Cool. Now I've set out authorization a couple times. So there's authentication, which is kind of like the client side. You have the login page, and then you have authorization, which is happening on the back end, where it utilizes that access token to see whether or not it responds back with resources. There is a public route in the Express that doesn't have any kind of middleware, but on the the protected route, there is a check.jot middleware on the Express there. And this is actually using some other packages, and this verifies the access token that comes in, make sure it's legit, make sure it hasn't been edited in transit, and if it does, and if this hasn't been edited and the access token is legit from whatever provider that you're using, then it'll respond back with the protected message there at the bottom that you can see. All right, flew through the ending there. That was really fast. So I'm going to be posting these slides later to my Twitter handle. If you caught that, it's I am Tyler W. Clark. If you want to go back and look at it. But really, what I wanted to show you today is that authentication, identity, all that stuff is really hard. There's a whole months of work that you can get into to learn all the ins and outs about how tokens are signed and the flow between third-party applications and all that. But you don't need to be a CS degree major or a staff level developer in order to get authentication running. You can utilize things like Auth0, a lot of identity providers that you can use to create that login experience for you. They'll provide SDKs and packages for you that you can then work with and add to your app. But I recommend just downloading some boilerplates, developer.auth0.com, find your language of choice, create a free account, and then just play around with the tokens. And that's it. Thanks.